All right. Well, we're back. Two hats and a microphone. We got Jason Parr from Brock Roofing, fresh off the plane from Cancun, Mexico.
Oh yeah,
Spring
new
break.
studio.
New studio.
Looks
I know.
great.
You like
Thanks.
it?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So this is our first like full podcast in the studio. We've done some videos and stuff like that, but we're it's
We're getting fancy.
yeah.
It is fancy.
Fancy.
Yeah.
You know.
You got Paulie the pronghorn watching
there.
over you up there, so
Yeah.
he's keeping an eye on you. So, so Jason is the owner operator of Brock Roofing here in Brock, Texas. We wanted to talk, especially this time of year. Obviously, we're in the mortgage space. Roofing is a hot button, along with insurance, buying a house, selling a house, whether it's trying to get insurance. So let's dive into, first off, tell us, like, why did you start Brock Roofing? What brought you to roofing?
Well, I saw a need, obviously, in Parker County. There wasn't really a roofing company, definitely in Brock, but on the west side there that really stood out to me. And something I'd always wanted to do was start my own company. And roofing, I thought that was a good niche. I had an interesting background. I was a teacher and coach for 14 years. Then I was in pharmaceutical sales for 9. So, I mean, definitely those don't really equal
Natural
roofing.
progression.
Yeah,
Yeah.
natural progression.
But it was a good fit for me.
Yeah.
I took what I'd learned in education, then in the business world and in sales,
Yeah.
and kind of took that business acumen and translated it into something I thought could be special, and it turned out to be special.
Right.
We've been very blessed. I'll tell you that right now. But it has a lot to do with being in Parker County. It has a lot to do with being in Brock. I mean, that's just a good place to be, a good place to have your family, and a good place to own a business.
Yeah.
So
No question. No question. So when did you start Brock Roofing?
2020.
2020.
So it was the first year.
Okay.
COVID.
Honestly,
COVID, baby.
So my wife and I were both in pharmaceutical sales, and obviously we got told to stay at home. So
Yeah.
we were just looking at each other, and I was like, well, what if we don't go back to work?
Yeah.
That was the catalyst.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sure.
And I was off and running pretty quick. And every year we've grown. We've had sales force over time.
Mhm.
Right now we have 18 salespeople. So
Wow.
we cover a wide geography, but
Mhm.
they're all based right here in Parker County.
Mhm.
We buy our materials in Parker County, our laborers from Parker County. You would say we are definitely a local company, and we're invested here as well.
Right.
So,
That's awesome. That's great. So 18 sales reps. That feels like a lot. Like
it is.
how, like, what's your trick to keeping all those folks on point and rowing in the right direction?
Well, number one's hiring good people,
Mhm.
people that are motivated, like-minded,
Mhm.
people that, have a service heart, because we do have to help people. I mean, that is a big part of what we're doing. We're encountering people a lot of times at their most vulnerable moment. They've come off a catastrophe, a natural event, but they don't understand what's next. They don't understand what to do, and we walk them through that process of getting their house and their life back to normal.
Yeah.
But the real trick there, we can go back to my salespeople, is that I just treat them the way I would want to be treated. Okay, as I compensate them well, I give them the support they need.
Mhm.
I let them give me input on what they need. I
Yeah.
don't try and micromanage them and tell them, "Hey, this worked for me, so I want you to do it."
Yeah.
I want them to do what works for them, because they're always going to do that.
Right.
Right.
Okay?
That's awesome.
So that's investing back in themselves, and so that's a real big core value. Is that when we're putting a roof back, we're putting a better roof. Well, the same thing with our guys. We want them to. We're getting better all the time, investing back into them.
That's awesome.
So what? I mean, you had to start this from the ground up, and you were in pharmaceutical sales. How much of that transitioned into coming over in the sales you were doing for starting a roofing company? Did that help you,
It
like
did.
in the beginning?
Well, you don't know what you don't know, obviously.
Yeah.
That's part of it. And God was very good to me when I didn't know the answers. He put people in my life that kind of steered me the right direction. But yeah, I stood out for number one. I didn't look or talk exactly the way everyone else did. And I could be selective. When I started, it was just me.
Yeah.
So I could build it the way I wanted to. I made my mistakes early. I figured out, all right, these are the people that I want to do business with.
Right.
These are the labor that I want. Oh, they're more expensive, but hey, guess what? It's done right every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really a big thing is we want to put a roof on and you not call us back.
Yeah.
Like that's important to us. So, and I figured out I was lucky enough to have SRS Distribution, one of their territory managers, Josh Neal, come into my life. And, he really did bless Brock Roofing. He helped us out tremendously and he taught me a lot. And, he was basically there from the beginning to see us grow. So that's been huge too. So, I mean, I cannot take all the credit. My wife would be the first to say, hey, wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
I did have a lot of help.
Yeah.
While I was different where my delivery, my approach, adding value, putting people first over profit, all those things were me, but you don't get there by yourself.
Right.
That's something definitely we are a big team that's moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So and we kind of alluded to it earlier. So let's dive into the hot buttons, right?
Yeah.
So North Texas, we're known for a lot of things.
Sure.
One of which is hail.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
And that has been in conjunction with insurance rates. We've seen it a ton, insurance policies are going up. Heck, I called you, was it 2 weeks ago? And I was like, hey man, how do we tackle this? So you gave me some great advice. So walk us through kind of what's going on from that perspective with the weather insurance.
Sure. So, I mean, everyone wants to be a homeowner, right? But you got some things that go along with that you might not think about. One of those being taxes, which is going up all the time. And the other one would be your insurance is also tied to your mortgage. Okay. Those are two things that probably are going to go up. Okay. Or that you're definitely going to fluctuate and you need to plan for that. But when you talk about, kind of the way things are now, you kind of go back a few years and talk about the way that things were in 2020.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was a little thinner, about 10 pounds. Didn't have quite as much gray in my beard.
We're not going to have the before and afters.
But things were different. Okay. Since 2020, home prices increased 40% in Texas across the board. That's a significant increase. It's the highest in the nation. When you look at the cost to build a home, just for a builder grade home, it's between $150 and $200. And that's just to build it. That's not to go out and buy it.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're looking at a custom home, you're looking at $250 to $500 a square foot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Okay. Then when you talk about insurance costs, insurance has risen 23.3% since 2020, the highest rate increase in the nation. Okay. Right here in Texas. Now, all three of those things go together. Okay. The value of the home, the cost to build the home, and then your insurance. You can't ignore those things.
Yeah.
Right.
It just costs more now. When I first started, we were buying shingles for $60 a square. Now I would love to have that. I mean, now it's double that.
Yeah.
So labor went up, material went up, and they just didn't come down.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're still going up.
Yeah.
So those are things you got to think about, that a lot of people, a lot of homeowners, especially young homeowners, if it's their first house, they don't realize those things. Yeah. Now, like you said, we're in North Texas. Okay. It's not a matter if it's going to hail, it's when.
Yeah.
Well, we've already seen it this year. Significant hailstorms came early.
Yeah.
They went, through basically Granbury.
Wind.
Lots of wind.
Lots of wind.
I feel like Lubbock all of a sudden.
Oh, yeah. Like Lubbock blew in, that's for sure. It got dark. But when we talk about those things, you need to be prepared.
Right.
Okay. The insurance, they're not all the same. That's something you'd have to realize when you go out and you pick your policy. It doesn't matter who you pick. You have some say in what your deductible is going to be,
right? And
you have some, what your policy is going to look like.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that is you as a homeowner. There's not some magic insurance fairy that comes down and says, "All right, you get a roof, you get a roof, you get a roof," and they just pull the money out of That's not how it works. You pay for your roof.
Right.
You either pay through your premiums and your deductible, or you pay for it out of pocket.
Right.
Okay. But you pay for your roof. Now, you get to decide, well, am I going to do it with a high deductible, 1%, 2%, 3% deductible, and a low premium? or am I going to do it with a 1% deductible and, a higher premium?
Yeah.
And you have options there, and every policy is different. But, at the end of the day, you are paying for your roof. Okay.
Yeah.
It's your money. Now, the way insurance does it, and this is very important for you to realize, they look at your house. Let's say your house is 20 years old, but it has a 10-year-old roof. They're going to put a value of your house of whatever you're insured for. You decide, I'm going to insure my house for $500,000, we'll say. All right, I'm going to get a 1% deductible. So now you have $5,000 away from that. They look at the roof and say, all right, this roof is this old. We think we're going to have to replace this in 4 years. So they put the value of the roof, okay, divided by 4. There's your policy.
Yeah.
Okay, minus the deductible. You see what they're saying? You pay for your roof.
Yeah.
Now they're doing a gamble that, hey, it's going to last 4 years. While they're always going to have their line of profit above that. Okay, what they pay out.
Sure.
So that's how they do it.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. They're a for-profit company. They want to make money. But like I said, you need to decide, how you're going to do that. Now, I do get people all the time. They're like, I don't pay the deductible. And the deductible is part of the cost of replacing the roof.
Right.
So if you have a $15,000 from insurance and you have a 1% $5,000 deductible, they're going to take that away. So if you say, I'm not going to pay that, do you think that there's a roofer out there that's going to say, all right, I'm going to give you a $15,000 roof for $10,000? No, you just got a $10,000 roof.
Yeah.
And you broke the law.
Yeah.
Insurance fraud is a real thing.
Yeah.
I just think that that's very important. A lot of people out there are like, well, I've never paid the deductible. I'm not going to pay. Guess what? You get what you pay for every time. And those people are going to make their money. I'd much rather go with someone who's going to do it right, be there for the long haul. It's not going to disappear in 6 months or be out of business.
Yeah.
Right.
That's important.
Yeah.
That's good feedback. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So kind of along those lines, we had the conversation you and I had was around the deductible. And I basically just came to the conclusion that I would rather not pay to keep a 1% deductible because I did just have my roof replaced. Yeah. And so, and I don't really feel like it was a gamble. I think it was just
educating.
Yeah. I mean, because I called you before I did it. And I was like, hey, am I off the mark here? I mean, I know what my roof is. My roof's not growing. Costs are going to be incrementally higher and, at some point in the future, but it just didn't make sense because of the amount of the increase that I was getting on my policy, because I got double hit. I got hit with, we had just put a new fireplace in, and the replacement cost estimator on the entire property was 150 low. So I went from 375 to over 500 on my replacement cost plus a fireplace. And then, so my premium went up nearly $3,000 for the year. So I was this
just to keep a 1% deductible.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like I said, one of the most important things that people can realize is that you pay for your roof.
Yeah.
And here's another common misconception. And we'll just talk a little bit about hail here.
Yeah.
So the scope and magnitude. The largest hailstorm in Texas forever was the 96 Mayfest storm.
Okay.
It did $2 billion worth of damage in 1996. Okay. The June 2023 storms in Dallas and Fort Worth did an estimated $6 to $10 billion worth of damage. People always tell me, they're like, hey, I don't want to make a claim on my insurance because my premium is going to go up.
Yeah.
Your premium is going up.
Right.
Because everyone else
feels the increase. In fact, a hailstorm in Minnesota affects the price in Texas. Okay.
Yeah.
Because if you're State Farm, you're across the nation.
Yeah.
It's dispersed evenly.
Yeah.
That's what insurance does. And that's why we have it. So we don't have to feel the brunt of the burden at one time, but you do pay for it. Okay. That's something that I think is very important. It's like, if you have damage, we'll go ahead and get into this because I know this will be a big part of y'all, is like, if you're ever going to sell your house, like your roof is going to be a big component of the sale of that house.
Yeah.
The age, the condition, and it will affect that. Okay. And I mean, that is one of the things that will get flagged during inspection that will stop the sale of your house.
What's the what are they? What's the age?
5.
5 years?
Yeah. Basically, you get a decent insurance premium right now if the roof is under 5 years old. And if it's over 5, it's probably $150 more per month for a similar house. And I'm not a insurance expert.
Yeah.
I just see policies come in.
Yeah.
So basically, just to kind of put it in perspective, in 2020, when we started doing mortgages and I was doing refinances, if I didn't know their homeowners insurance, I would just assume $75 a month. And about 20% of the time I was too low, right? Most of the time I was too high and we were good to go. And it's just slowly ratcheted up. Right now, we tell all of our loan officers, assume $300 a month.
That's probably, I was going to say, that's probably a more realistic estimate.
Yeah. So $300 a month, from $75 to $300. And then all of our property taxes went up in 23 when the state was like, oh, we're going to give you an extra $100,000 in homestead exemption. Well, actually, it was extra $60,000 in homestead exemption, but we're also going to make sure that all the appraisal districts get within 90% of your actual value. Because for years,
they got everybody there.
They got everyone there. Everyone there.
Now they won't lower it if our home values go down.
No, they won't. They won't. They kept that going up.
Yeah.
So that's on top. The 3 things that have hit home buyers in North Texas is interest rates went up.
Yeah,
they did. But your taxes went up a few $100s a month. Your homeowner's insurance went up $150 a month. That's where the real hurt.
That was the real increase. That was when they actually saw. That didn't look. That was on the escrow. They saw that. They felt that, and that was painful for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And and here's what happens on the insurance side. And I love most of my insurance agent friends, but when they get a call from someone that's saying, "Oh my gosh, my premium is going up $3,000," which equals out what we said. You're looking at $300 extra a month.
Yeah.
You got to help me out. What can I do? Well, there's only a few things they can do.
Yeah.
Okay. They can raise your deductible. Okay. Or they can take you to an ACV policy. Now, an ACV policy, and I've already told you, like, you pay for your roof.
Right.
But if you get an ACV policy, which is an actual cost value policy, not a replacement cost value.
Right.
Okay. Now, if the value of your roof is $20,000, they say, all right, you have 1% deductible. There's $5,000 away. Now we're down to 15. Okay. Then you have an ACV policy. That's actual cost value. Then they're going to depreciate your roof. Okay.
Based on that. Yeah.
Based on that. And if you figure that out, you let me know how they do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, how do we calculate that? That's interesting.
So then let's say it's 10 years old. So they're going to depreciate half of it. So we're going to take $10,000. Here's $5,000. You're now paying for 3/4 of your roof. Insurance is only paying for a portion, 25%. Now these are just make-believe numbers.
Right.
With, but they're not far off.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. If you have an ACV policy, when it comes time to replace your roof, you're going to have to pay.
Yeah, a big chunk of
A
it.
big chunk. And
So-
a lot of people aren't saving for this.
Yeah. No, it's tough to save in this environment right now with the cost of everything. But on the ACV, is that the issues we were seeing? Those policies coming in?
There was some
because the
policies.
lenders won't take an ACV policy.
They won't take it.
Yeah.
And I don't know about all that.
There's going to have to be some changes somewhere because somebody has to give. Because
some of the carriers, I think, are going to that as a safeguard for them.
So I had a conversation today with a homeowner. We were in Mansfield. Adjuster came. They bought his roof. I was there. It went fine. But he was kind of explaining to him the process after the fact, what would happen, the deductible, all those kinds of things.
Yeah. And
he's like, if your mortgage company's on the check, you'll have to get them involved too. And he was like, well, why would they be on the check? The mortgage company owns your house.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Until
you pay it off and it is now in Jason Parr's or Willis or Gary's name, they own it. Okay. And so they are vested. They are interested. I get all kinds of crazy paperwork from mortgage companies wanting me to release them of a lien,
Yeah.
that they won't hold them liable and all this stuff because, they're a part of this. A lot of people do not understand that.
Right.
That is kind of mystifying that,
Yeah.
that they wouldn't think that they'd be involved in the insurance part of it.
Yeah.
Of your
Right.
house.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's definitely one of the high level costs that we've seen in the last, 5 years, but people, they don't have the issue till they have the issue. You know what I mean? And it's like, and then when you have the issue, it's like, oh,
What do you
this
do?
is,
Yeah.
now you start peeling the onion back, and then you realize, what you signed up for.
who did this? You did this.
You did this.
Yes.
You chose this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now it may be buried in page 14, paragraph 3, sentence 2 of their policy, but it's in there.
Yeah.
That's what they picked, and that's what pays.
Right.
And the good thing is, though, too, also is that the policies are very clear on what they cover.
Yeah.
Right.
So if there is damage, insurance has to pay.
Yeah.
It's twofold.
Yeah.
Right.
It's what you pick, but also they have to pay as well. And we do run into that every now and then where we get an adjuster who's having a bad day, doesn't want to buy stuff. But typically, for the most part, I've had great experiences with all the carriers, and they've done a good job. So
that's good. Yeah, we've it's an interesting time right now trying to get that whole debt to income squared away with insurance, and policies coming in super high. I got one right now where the ladies were trying to get closed. She just got her policy on this place. It's an older house, kind of a fixer upper, and it's ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it's never been an issue. I was talking to an insurance person the other day, a couple months ago, but like she was saying, I've never had somebody call me back and say, hey, I can't qualify this person because of your policy. Can you get me something else? And she's getting that call, not every day, but more regular than it ever was, because they've gone up so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not going to change either. Okay. No. It's just going to keep going up.
Yeah.
I agree. So let's shift gears a little bit, because that's enough bad news.
Yeah. Bad news.
Thanks, Jason.
Wah, wah.
The good news is you got solutions.
I do.
And that's what's encouraging, I think, about how you do business, is that you are providing a solution for your clients.
Always adding value.
I'm always interested, and we talk a lot when we're together about business in general. I always curious to hear your thoughts on sales, marketing, all that sort of thing. So let's talk a little bit about Brock, Texas, your background in the branding, how that all kind of came to be, because your colors are blue and gold Brock. I mean,
mascot's the eagle.
You got the eagle. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Well,
when did y'all move there? I guess
2020.
First?
Yeah,
2020.
So,
okay, so y'all moved there.
It all went together. Yeah. So before that, I was in Mansfield since 2001. When I started teaching in Mansfield, there was one high school, and there's a lot of them now.
Yeah.
But it was time. We wanted to get to the country, and it's all of my kids graduated from Brock High School, and that was important to us. We wanted to get out of Mansfield, and we still have friends there, but it changed drastically over the years.
Yeah,
it's just gotten too big. But we get out here, and I have a really soft part for teachers and coaching and athletics, because I was that. So we're super involved in Brock ISD.
Yeah.
I mean, in every sports program there is, whether my kids are involved or not. I mean, we support softball, baseball, basketball, girls and boys, football. I mean, if they want Brock Roofing to support it, we're there. The Education Foundation, everything, UIL.
Yeah.
I mean, we are very vested there. So it made, there was always an eye on that when we were starting the company. We were going to be a big part of our local community.
Sure.
Like our Brock Roofing brand is tied to the community. And there's nothing more important than our name.
Yeah.
So we made a huge push there, and we'll always continue to do that. We'll always continue, even though I'm fixing to have an empty nester, my kids are going to graduate, but we will still be super involved in Brock and the surrounding community as well. I mean, a lot of our salespeople live in, Peaster, Garner, Weatherford, Willow Park, Aledo. That's where we're very invested everywhere.
Yeah.
And in the world that we live in, we're constantly promoting Brock Roofing, our brand, and we like doing that. We like being out there. We think we have a good product,
Mhm.
but we like to, showcase it as well.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we've talked about what works. Honestly, it's kind of like, it's kind of like going to the gym, like picking a plan. They all work. You just got to do it and then commit to it. And some are better than others. We have ones that are, the feel good ones, and those are okay too. But then the ones that generate more exposure as well.
Right.
So we have billboards and we have plenty of social media marketing, but you can't ever have enough these days.
No.
And then obviously we're big into networking groups in the community. And obviously our biggest commodity has been our employees though. Because they made it a part of them.
Yeah.
One of the things we don't do is we don't door knock. We don't chase storms. So how do you get business? Well, you have to develop it. You have to develop relationships, then do a good job to get referrals.
Yeah.
Well, that's a different philosophy than most roofing companies where they just send out their army of door knockers and just harass people.
Yeah.
And I know how I felt. Most people come to my door and knock. So we don't do that. I was like, if you wanted to go out and knock on a neighborhood, do it before the storm.
Right.
Go out there and offer a service. Say, hey, we're here. If you have a problem, we'd like to help you out. Like I said, after the fact, after the storm, when you're playing on people's vulnerability, that just doesn't stick right with me.
Yeah.
That's just not how you're supposed to do things. And I think there's a lot more people than people realizing that want things done the right way. They want them done the old way.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's coming back.
Yeah.
And so I think that's huge. It's huge for us here in Parker County, but just in Texas as a whole.
Yeah.
We've had so much growth here that I think we need to hold on to that handshake and yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, those kind of things. We just need to keep moving in that direction. I think they go a long way between distinguishing ourselves from everyone else.
Yeah.
Right.
Super important.
Yeah.
How much? So talking about your business, how much of it is storm related? So let's just say it's, call it middle of the summer and we don't have any hail coming in. So like, how does that is it all probably stems at some point from some kind of an event, but are you doing new construction, anything like fix and flips?
It's kind of funny to say that because hail used to be 3 or 4 months out of the year.
Right.
Now it is all year long.
Yeah.
I mean, we have hail in September, October, November. So it has become where obviously that is a big part of our business. We do a lot of residential, a lot of commercial. We do both of those. But we also do a lot of new construction on the metal side. That's a lot of custom homes. A lot of standing seam is what we do. Do some R panel, but we do a lot of standing seam. We don't do a lot of new construction on the new builds for just like a house for the composite roofs. It's really just not worth it for us. But it's not where we've kind of hung our hat. Ours is more of there has to be some kind of interaction.
Right.
There's no interaction there. You're just throwing up a builder grade house. It's just a number. We like to talk to people. What do you want? I mean, we work with custom home builders, but as far as those track homes, that's not us.
Yeah. No, that's a tough business going,
So percentage wise, it kind of, storms are throughout the year, but like, where percentage wise of business is it coming from storms? Is it come from aged out roofs? Is it coming from?
They're all storm related.
They're all storm related.
People don't want to replace their roof until it's a problem. Now, a lot of people, I love telling people the roof's okay. I get on a lot of roofs. They're like, hey, I had a storm. Can you check it out? And I get up there and I'm like, hey, roof's in great condition. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah. I mean, I guess I don't hear that from a lot of roofers. I don't know. But we love telling people that their roof's okay. But if it's all age related, okay, if they're starting to have problems, we do see it more on the insurance side. I'm getting to where a lot of insurance agents are like, hey, call Jason with Brock Roofing, have him send out one of the guys to check on your roof because they're complaining about their policy.
Right.
Their roof's 10 plus years old. They're being punished for the age of the roof, okay, by insurance. Every year it's going up. And they're like, they need a new roof. At some point they have to do something. So we like to wait. We don't to make sense. We put a lot of people on our radar. Like, hey, they get a hailstorm, we're going to get out there and replace it. But honestly, it's getting to a point now where we've had some people come in cash.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I need to replace my roof. My insurance is crazy.
Yeah.
I know I need one. I've been saving for it. Let's do it. And we offer financing, but you hate to finance a roof. You know,
Yeah.
for some people it's a reality, but we prefer not to go that route.
Yeah.
What's the? I know this is probably a really wide range, but I'm going to ask it anyways. What would somebody on a 2,000 square foot house, what could you expect to pay for a roof on average?
Gosh. So let's say 2,000 square foot
In a range,
with
like
a pitch, 8 pitch. So let's say it's 40 squares. Okay.
Okay.
40 squares, you're probably looking around $16,000 to $20,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's pretty normal. Usually around 400 to 500 a square. Even you go any
That's
low,
installed.
if you start going, yeah, that's done. That's everything. Everything's great. It's not builder grade. That's synthetic underlayment, ice and water shield in the valleys. That's a certainty landmark shingle. You could obviously go with a more less inferior shingle product.
Yeah.
Then you start looking at labor, cheaper labor. I mean, but you get what you pay for. I mean, if you go cheaper, you get cheaper. And you have problems down the road.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
Right.
So we don't want that. In order for me to warranty a roof with the way I want to, it's just 5-year labor plus on top of whatever the warranty is for the shingle manufacturer. Right. We have to do it a certain way. I mean, we just do.
Yeah.
That way we don't have to come back.
Right.
And that's important. But yeah, it's the cost is all over the place.
Yeah.
And you'll find people that'll do a lot cheaper than that, but you get that. You what you pay for.
Sure.
It may be like this up there. You never know. And a lot of homeowners don't know.
Right.
They just hope they did a good job. That's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the last? I mean, we had, what was it, 50-mile-an-hour winds on Friday last week, and what are you guys been? Are you guys been just blowing and going?
Yeah, but I mean, there's the wind is
no
actually
pun intended.
the wind is frustrating for me as a business owner as well, because insurance will not replace a roof for wind damage.
Really?
Yeah, they want multiple slopes and a percentage of the roof blown off. In order for them to, otherwise it's just a repair. They're going to say, let's say, Willis, we'll use you.
Yeah, use me.
You had some shingles blow off his roof. I came out and looked at it. It was 2 or 3 spots, maybe a half a dozen to a dozen shingles. So I say, hey, this is just a repair. If insurance had come out, they'd say, hey, you have a $5,000 deductible. This is $800 worth of damage. Here's $0. Fix your roof.
Yeah.
And you have a claim.
And now you have a claim.
And you have a wind claim.
Yeah.
So we don't want to, and you have to justify, that you did the work. Us, we would come out. We love saying, "Oh, hey, that's a $350. That's the minimum. $350 is typically what most of our repairs are." And honestly, we love repairs that we get to talk to people, meet people, make a connection, do a good job, fix it right, and then we'll follow up you down the road.
And before he did that, he came out 2 different hailstorms and was like, "Yeah, there's no damage."
Yeah, because
I didn't know this. The pitch of my roof is so steep. Yeah. It's real steep. I got up there one day to try to fix something. I was like, nope, and went back down. But it's steep. And so that steep, when the hail comes down, sloughs off a lot of that hail.
Yeah. It doesn't have anything to bite onto. So like if you have like the pitch goes from 1 to 12 and then higher, it goes to 14, 12. So, the lower your pitch is, the more that it's going to impact just straight down. And then the more it is up, it doesn't have anything to bite onto. And then, sometimes insurance companies want to slope a roof. They'll say, all right, we'll just hit that slope and not this slope.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough game out there. I mean, it's a lot to know. Yeah. And a lot to, we try and advise people the best way we can. We don't want them to do anything that we wouldn't do.
Right.
So,
well, and what he said too is once it starts blowing off, it's just going to keep blowing off.
Yeah. Once it starts,
it just
builder grade shingles do that. They don't typically use a synthetic underlayment. They don't usually use 5 to 6 nails per shingle. They're in a hurry. They're not getting paid well.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not. They're using the cheapest shingle there is. They're using the cheapest products. They're in a hurry. Okay, because they're not getting paid anything. Right. So when they do a bad job, it's like, well, what did you expect?
Yeah,
like that's unfortunate, but it's a reality.
That's a reality.
So the first roof is always pretty much a bad roof
Mhm.
for a house. Okay. I'm like,
Got it.
sometime in the future, you're gonna have some problems with it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you almost want a hailstorm within
Yeah.
the first 6 years
Yeah.
to go ahead and get a new roof and get a
Right.
better roof.
Mhm.
Awesome. That's, I think that's the main, I mean, part of this whole podcast is to get folks in tune with, other businesses within the community. And we've had bankers on here.
Mhm.
We've had the D-Wink folks,
Mhm.
restaurant owners, but like, I think the timing on this one is super important and the information is valuable because it's so important how people, your financial plan, like it's your biggest investment,
Sure,
right? And that
absolutely.
roof
Mhm.
is what protects it.
Sure.
It's the first line of defense,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so, all right. So 2025,
Mhm.
Rock Roofing, what's it look like at the end of the year? What's the win look like?
Help a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, we're already on track. I mean, it's just been we love Parker County, but we have plenty of friends everywhere. We're in Mansfield, we're in Waxahachie, we're in Burleson, Joshua, Cleburne, Granbury. We're all over the place right now. Where the hell has been?
Yeah.
And then as far as wind, there's nowhere we haven't been. We've been everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's been a challenge, but our team's up to it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And honestly, whatever God puts in my path will be enough.
All right.
We're not out there. We're never going to be desperate. I'm never going to be a desperate roofer. I pay my bills. I pay my suppliers first, my laborers first. I get paid last.
Right.
That way there's never going to be a problem. We got
Right.
great credit. Okay. We don't have any problems. Okay. No criminal convictions. We're perfect. Okay.
Hey, that's hard to do in Parker County nowadays. We get so many
every year's a
people.
good year.
Mhm.
That my kids are healthy and that I get to go to work.
Yep.
So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
So, in kind of wrapping up, what's the best way to kind of get a hold of you? If somebody's got questions, whether they got a situation today or they're planning for potentially, hopefully getting a better insurance policy due to a new roof, what's the best way to get a hold of you guys? Where do they find you?
just reach out to us. Obviously, we're on Facebook, but 817-307-6153. I'm sure we'll flash that up on the screen.
Yeah,
here for
we'll
But,
get some.
just give us a call. But real fast before we wrap up here,
Yeah.
talk a little bit about loans and
Yeah.
the ones that you really have to worry about the roof. One would be the VA loan.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rules there. Like the house has to be in a certain condition
Sure.
to sell. And the roof is one of those things. Okay. You definitely have to be cognizant of that. And then your FHA loan. Now listen, the roof has to meet a certain standard. It has to be in a good enough condition for them to buy it. So those things are real important. And then, if eventually everyone's going to buy and sell a house that's listening to your podcast. Okay. If you're going to buy one, you need to have it inspected by a roofer. Okay. Even if nothing's caught by the inspector, okay, you should have it inspected by a roofer to make sure.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
That
Okay,
is.
'cause a lot of times it's pretty steep.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everybody does, but a lot of those inspectors do their inspection from the edge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
They do.
Now, do you charge a fee for that inspection?
No.
No fee. We'll come
Okay.
out and do it for free. We'll look it over. We'll give you an inspection and let you know what kind of shape it's in. If there is a problem, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
And we'll give you documentation to back that up with pictures. Like, here's what we saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
And if you're going to sell your house, you should have it looked at beforehand to make sure there's no problems that are going to impede the close of your house.
Right.
That's important too. Especially now, I'm not saying this is everybody, but when you do your seller disclosure and you get to the roof and you have to put an age on it. Okay.
Nobody knows the age difference.
All of a sudden, no one knows when
No
they
one.
put the roof on.
No one
I think 4, 5, 20. I'm not saying people are funny.
Yeah.
People are funny. If you see a seller's disclosure with a roof where they say it's like 6 or 8 years old, you better have that thing looked at because it's probably 16 or 20 years old.
Yeah.
And just because, and a lot of times, and this is significant too for your population, the power has shifted back to the buyers.
Sure.
And a lot of people who are buying a house are demanding a new roof.
Right.
Like they're making them replace those aged 10-plus-year-old roofs that have a ton of granule loss, and
Yeah.
they're just making them do it. And good news for the seller is your home's increased 40%.
Yeah.
So the money's there to do that.
Right.
But It's a lot better. I'm a miracle worker, I've been told.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
But
Okay.
if you wait till the last day of the option period to contact me to get out there, I can do it. But it's much better if you just get out in front of it.
Right.
Give us some time to work, and we'll make it happen a lot easier.
for sellers, do you have an option for them to pay you at closing so that
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yes. If you are selling your house and you need a new roof, you can put that into closing,
Yeah.
the entire amount.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
super handy.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
so you don't have to worry
come
about it.
Cash out of
Actually,
pocket.
the title company will actually send me a check at the
Mhm.
closing. So we actually have done
Perfect.
that multiple times already this year. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
that's a huge help?
Anything, especially right now, being able to provide that level of service, flexibility. I mean, that's solutions. That's a huge deal.
if I have signed paperwork today, I can put the roof on tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Anywhere. So,
Yeah.
Anywhere, huh?
Mhm. Anywhere around here.
Gary's into like putting them up every couple months, you know.
Oh,
It's
So the big hill, what was it? 20, you said 23?
23 was the big
Yeah,
one.
I think
Yeah.
that was
So
the big one.
23, we got hit
Oh,
with
yeah.
the big,
The piece steer that do you live out?
I'm in Garner.
Garner. Oh man, yeah.
we got
Garner had some
absolutely
bombs.
smashed. And I was in town.
Mm-hmm.
And so my wife, she has a dually, and we couldn't get it all. She couldn't get it all the way under the deal, and it hit the dually in the C pan or the C frame on the back of the pickup.
Yeah.
Dented that. Okay, that bar is there for if
In
you
between.
roll.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Then
In between the back door
Yeah.
and the back window,
Yeah.
that bar.
The dual, it hit the dual and it knocked the dual almost off. It cracked. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, I'd never seen anything like
Yeah,
it.
that was a bad one. I mean,
Then we got
that's-
hit.
Then he got hit. He
Like-
got it replaced.
Got it replaced, and it hit it. The guy had literally the week before submitted the final paperwork for the final payment,
Yeah.
and it got hit again.
Y'all Garner's had some big hail. Peaster's had
Mhm.
some big hail.
Big hail, big wind. We get
Big wind.
some weird straight line winds out there. I mean, Mark
Mhm.
from our team, he lives about a mile down the road. And
Yeah.
it gets ranchy out there.
Yeah, it gets
in
a
a
little
hurry.
rough.
It does.
Yeah.
So.
It's biblical sometimes. So yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Good, man. That's great information. We appreciate it. And for anybody watching, obviously Jason's a wealth of knowledge in this area.
Mhm.
Reach out to him. Don't get yourself into a bind because it's all fixable if you got a plan. No different than when we talk about people with a mortgage plan. Come in, put your plan together before you get into a loan process, because then you've got time to make adjustments. And
Right.
there's no difference here. You're protecting your biggest investment that you'll probably make in your entire lifetime.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Protect your investment, add value when you go back with a new roof, get a
Yeah.
better product. And that's the big thing. We always go back with a better roof. That's probably one of our things that we're
Yeah.
kind of known for.
it's a good
Yeah.
point.
Well, we like making people happy.
Sure.
Okay, that's a big part of what we do is adding value, and definitely at the end of it, we want you to be happy with the process, happy with the product, and the roof you have. So,
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, we'll drop the contact information for Jason and his team down below. If you got any questions, definitely reach out, and we'll see you on the next episode.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.